Skulltaker. The time, the grim darkness of the far future. The place, the feral world of Cranos 4. They pray. They whimper their pleas unto an uncaring, empty sky. There are no sky warriors. There are no chariots of light and thunder. There is no emperor on a distant birthplace of humanity. Fairy tales to placate the addled and sheepish. There is only us and them, the Dark Ones. And no prayers or incantations from our priest will do anything to change that. Nor will I sit behind our walls and await our death. For the survivors, the few, the people who have fled before the onset of this host of evil, they have told me of how it all begins. Always the same, in fire. Our homes are wood, our roofs thatched, our walls stone and timber. But all will burn. If the evil ones are allowed purchase, if they get within range of our homes, it is over. So we go out to meet them. Our lines are solid, our shields locked. Men from not only my village, but a half-dozen more. And we do not simply stand, allowing the enemy to rob our warriors of their balls by watching them passively. We move towards the enemy. All are fit, all are whole. All amongst us are carrying their weapons and armor. We jog, making double time toward where they will enter this plateau. The one place we can hold them where our numbers will not be an advantage. And we can get there before them, yet know of their approach. It cannot be ignored, hidden from. They begin to come down the one path towards us. So we form up. Of old we learnt how they are powerful alone, yet too powerful. Far too powerful for any one man to defeat, usually. But as a force, as a unit, as one, then many men can defeat them where one could not. We are no army. Long gone are the days when our people were numerous enough to have such luxuries as standing armies. Blights, infestations, poxes, and battles long ago crushed the peoples of Cranos. We are few. Yet the hardy survived. Then the evil ones came. Few at first, leaving and burning lone hamlets or homesteads, but as we grew fewer in number over the years, so they became more numerous. Yet we have defeated them before. The cost is high, but it has been done. And today we will do it again. We can hear them screaming as they charge down towards us. We advance to the very mouth of the pathway, and it begins. They come down again and again. Each time our spears are sharp, packed, and we hold them off. We push them back on those coming afterwards. They bunch, and when we follow up, many of them fall off the plateau and causeway. Goes well. At times, one of them will get past our shields and spears, amongst the main body, and slay many. But the back lines are filled with men as brave as those at the front. We take our hewing axes to them and bear them down. This goes on for hours, until finally they stop just charging down at us, and they mass. One of them comes out in front of their lines. It screams into the airs, and its intent is clear. It is a challenge. Our lines hold, but I see my kin and those other villagers all looking to their leaders, their lords. And I see them myself. Old, grizzled, but old. Of all of the head men I am strongest, fastest. I am the wielder of Hellbane, the axe of kings. So I stride out. I am the only one who can. The shield wall opens as I am cheered by all present. I do not wait, I do not walk. I raise Hellbane aloft and issue my challenge, then charge at the beast. The men all ring spear and sword on shield as I run. The thing comes at me also, its loping step the result of its goat-like legs. And at the last it bounds towards me, and I launch myself up to meet it. Am I not fain to run? My salmon leap is the envy of all. I am its equal in height as we rush through the air, but I am not proud of those seconds, if they are that. For I bring down Hellbane and he raises his jagged burning blade. His glowing sword scythes clean through my axe, and he takes my right arm off. I land. He lands. My arm lands between us, still clutching Hellbane. Silence. The cheering has stopped. The shields ring no longer. My arm is gone. I move badly, the pain and blood spurting from my now empty right shoulder, but much of it was cauterized by the flames of his blade. The stench of my own burnt flesh reeks. I turn on my heels and lurch. I only barely regain my balance as my foe charges me. I run to my axe, but he is faster. He passes me, and my body lurches forward, propelled to the ground as I now have no legs. The steaming stumps barely below my groin. I do not cry out. I do not whimper. I try. For the men onlooking, I try. I use my left arm to try to draw my body to the blade. I will die with it in my hand at least. The thing watches me. It does not laugh. It does not assault me then. It allows me this last honor. My hand closes on the shaft of my axe, just above where my right arm is still clutching it still. I roll onto my back and it is above me. The thing. It nods. It has given me this. Then, and only then, does it raise its blade and cut off my left arm. I now lie limbless and helpless as the demon places its sword in the ground, and then stoops down to take my head in its hands. It nods again and smiles, a last signal between warriors. Then everything is flames, as I burn. Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the important factions, forces, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. If you are a regular gentle listener, then I would ask you to check that you are still subscribed and have notifications on. If not, then do consider subscribing, as then you will not miss out on ongoing narratives, if that sort of thing appeals to you. And today, we are to take a look at one of the most successful, lauded, and feared of all of the Blood God's warriors. Of course, I can only be talking of the Skulltaker, Uzul, a creature of unbridled hate and rage. The Skulltaker is one of the premier demons of the legions of hell. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Skulltaker, the champion of Khorne. It is said that when Khorne first created the demon that would become Skulltaker, the Bloodletter immediately chopped the head from the first creature he met, another Bloodletter. So began an existence of decapitation that has spread terror throughout the mortal and immortal universes. After his bloody awakening, the demon named Uzul wandered the realms of the warp and of reality, in search of the mightiest foes against which to test his martial skill. And mortal or not, all warriors fell to his blade. When the Bloodletter took his 888th skull, the champion in the making was chosen by his god to enter the Skull Pit, the proving ground of all Khorne's Bloodletter champions. There Uzul was not only unmatched, but beheaded every one of his opponents without receiving so much as a scratch in return. In recognition of Azul's achievement, Khorne not only anointed him as both a herald and sacred executioner, but bestowed the singular title of Skulltaker. The demon's body swelled with warp energies, and as an extension of his form, his hellblade also grew in power. Thus was formed the Slayer Sword, a formidable weapon capable of cutting through reinforced pastille and felling even the most monstrous of beasts with a single blow. Since his ascension, the champion of Khorne has carved a bloody path throughout the millennia. Skulltaker fought alongside the demon Prince Angron on Armageddon, cutting down several Grey Knights' brother captains in his infinite wrath. On Agrippina VI, Skulltaker slew the orc Grimsnag Urk in a titanic duel that lasted a day and a night. The combatants wading through the mutilated corpses of the warlord's once unstoppable horde. A full score of Eldereye exarchs fell to his blade during the fighting at Haranshimesh, even their prodigious skill and experience falling short of the heralds. Indeed, every race in the galaxy has its fearful legends concerning Skulltaker and his horrific exploits. Skulltaker often goes to war at the head of the cohort of blood, an assemblage of the greatest bloodletters selected from amongst the demonic legion's ranks. The herald's mere presence on the field of battle drives Khorne's lesser demons to impossible heights of frenzy, as all bloodletters regard him as the pinnacle of their kind and an exemplar of all that their bloodthirsty god demands. Whether battling against the armies of real space, the legions of Khorne's rivals, or even against fellow warriors of the Blood God, Skulltaker will always seek out the greatest champions of the enemy. Upon sighting one worthy of his skills, he will strike down all who stand between him and his quarry, contemptuously hacking his way through the press of melee, so that he may confront his chosen opponent and offer them the right of single combat. Those that flee are cut down or beheaded without thought, not worthy of any greater ceremony. Those brave or foolhardy enough to accept the champion of Khorne's bellowed challenge suffer an even worse fate. A duelist beyond compare, Skulltaker wields his blade in bloody crescents that dismember but rarely slay. Only when his foe is limbless upon the ground does the sacred executioner offer a final release. He grasps their head in his hand and, uttering the 8 words of sacrifice, wreathes his victim's head in magical flames until only bare skull remains. With a savage twist, he tears free the naked trophy, snapping it from the spine and holding it aloft for all to see. Skulltaker places his prize in the great sack he carries upon his back, alongside the other skull trophies taken in that battle. He then butchers his way towards his next victim, and proceeds to enact the same ritual, over and over again, until no foe worthy of his undivided attention remains. When he eventually returns to the Brass City, Skulltaker presents his trophies to his master. Most Khorne takes for himself. They are impaled upon brass spikes that adorn his keep. A few, those belonging to warriors that offered their killer a real challenge before they fell, Khorne begrudgingly allows the greatest of his sacred executioners to keep. Skulltaker weaves these into his cloak using bloody sinew, to sit alongside his other great triumphs. Kultiran. Kultiran is the legendary juggernaut mount of Skulltaker. Though Skulltaker prefers to fight alone, occasionally it will mount the beast. At the time the creature was claimed by Skulltaker from Khorne's infernal foundries, Kultiran was said to have been the toughest demonic mount in the Juggernaut stockade. The demon beast had killed more of its own kin than any other before or since. It prowled the perimeter of the pens, regularly making bids for freedom. It once shattered the compound's wall, and would have escaped were it not for the dozen heralds of Khorne who held it back. Skulltaker selected Kultiran from the pack when the sacred executioner witnessed the beast goring 3 heralds at once. Since then, the pair has regularly erupted from warp, to harvest a bounty of skulls for the Blood God Khorne. They have duelled others on countless worlds in the mortal realm, never yet losing a challenge. While Skulltaker decapitates its foes with the Slayer sword, Karan tears its armor as if it were soft flesh, and flesh as if it were ash. So pleased is Khorne with the pair's bloody work, that while in the Immaterium, Karan is the only juggernaut permitted to prowl the smoke-choked passageways of the Blood God's brass citadel, as its reward for engaging in unbridled destruction. End quote. Skulltaker is a magnificent figure which, lamentably, I have not yet had the opportunity to face across the field of glory. And perhaps, one day, I should indulge in a Chaos army if I cannot get at least a little action against him somehow. I do not think he can be taken with his mighty steed, Karan, anymore, but I would check that some more. The Codex does not give the option as far as I can see, but I could have missed a fact. So Chaos Demon players, do update me in the comments if you are so minded to help out a faithful servant. And he is a horror that would make any duelist concerned. And with him at their head, the ranks of Bloodletters in his entourage will only be more violent than ever before. A magnificent figure and a worthy addition to the hordes of the Blood God. But it does highlight something that is oft forgot about this particular Lord of Chaos, Khorne. For in him we see the honor that is supposed to be the byword and expected standard for all of the warriors of the Blood God. For strangely, he is far more honorable than Caleb and Cain, the elder bloody-handed god of murder. And although Khorne is presented as being a slaughterer incarnate in his most recent iterations, I cannot but miss the old Khorne. For the old Khorne is something I intend to discuss very soon indeed. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Skulltaker. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.